Hello and welcome back to the Unbound podcast. It has been a little while. There's been a few weeks or months actually now since I've recorded a last episode. But I have a friend here with me today, just like I did last time. So I've got Ryan with me and we're just going to have a yarn about all things Jesus and everyday life and everything in between. So to kick off, maybe Ryan, just tell the people a little bit about yourself and, you know, what makes you you.
What makes me me? I suppose a bit about ourselves. Turning 47 this year.
Officially old, mate.
Yeah, I think that's as you get older. When you were younger, it was like, I'm going to be turning 40 or turning 8 this year and you're 7. As you get older, you go through that middle page where you're telling people your exact age.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like, I'm still 46, but I'm going to be 47. Married to my wife, Jenny, for 27 and a half years now.
Congrats.
That's awesome. We've got 2 adult sons that are 25 and 21 this year.
Wow.
Making sure that was correct.
Yeah.
So they're
into
both
the
out.
decades. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So they're both out of the house. The youngest got married about 12 weeks ago.
Awesome.
Beautiful young daughter-in-law, Hannah, and we. I reckon even if he didn't, we probably would have adopted her. She's great. That's good.
She's going to be in part of the family.
Yes,
regardless.
It's great to have a daughter in the house.
So good.
So that's beautiful. Wife and I have had our own business in the labour hire realm within the mines in Australia.
Awesome.
For about coming up to 10 years this December.
Yeah.
And then we have like a coaching arm as well. That's probably about 12 years in. And then also an app that we've developed that does a lot of person-to-person interaction and help in that side of it as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So those 3 separate businesses, or is that one?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
currently.
wow. I didn't even think I knew that.
Nah.
That you doing 3. Keep yourself busy, mate.
It's funny. It's because the DGS side, the labour side, is quite busy. That takes a lot of your headspace.
Yeah.
And then the coaching side, I mean, it sounds terrible to be a coach that doesn't really. I don't go out of my way to get clients, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Because I want it to be authentic, and if someone's engaging with us, I want to actually have the time, and I want to know that they're actually going to respond from it.
Yeah.
So it just sort of sits there. We do bits
thing.
and pieces. It has a few long-term clients and that side of it, and then the Concord Teams is the other one, and that's more in line with the behavioural understanding, but putting it in people's hands. So you're actually removing my role to an extent as a coach, because you just put the information in their hands, help increase their EQ and their understanding, and hopefully they can work better together, not just in their business, but at home as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, like one of the best ways I feel like I get to know people is hearing about what drew them to Jesus and what, like, you don't have to give us a full testimony, but because, everyone can go into a lot of detail there, but maybe just talk me through where you felt like it started for you in a big way. And then maybe what was a monumental kind of moment or changes along that journey. There could be a few, there could be one.
There are probably a few. My parents were pastors, so
PK.
Yeah, PK.
Yeah. Well, you're doing well for a PK,
man,
mate.
I feel sorry for PKs that have a lot of PTSD because I had no issues.
I know a few PKs.
That's right. Dad and mum were ridiculously good in focusing on their first calling is actually their family.
Amazing.
And then the church and what have you. And so that resonated with us as boys. So I got 2 brothers as well. So we never sort of felt that whole abandonment. They love the church more than us. They're helping other people.
Away.
That was not existent. Dad and mum were very present, very defensive of us. I remember being in church and myself and a couple of mates were mucking up in the front row or second row, as you do when you're a young, 13-year-old.
You're looking for some way to kill time.
Yeah.
I remember doing the shots of...
the communion afterwards?
Yeah, communion,
yeah, we did
sure.
It
that was
afterwards.
the best.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Straight into the kitchen.
Yeah.
Quick, all the grape juice.
It's all the
eat some
leftovers anyway.
Yeah.
We were those. But a guy tried to tell mum that her son, as a pastor's son, should be better. And she tore strips off him.
Higher standards.
She tore strips off him, basically. So I was like, oh, well, that's how we stand.
Thanks, Mum.
Yeah. But as far as like engagement and experiencing God in that, I reckon I always come back to a time in Mackay, represent Mactown, coming over the Quarry Hill Bridge. There's a bridge there near Mackay Christian College. And I would have been, I don't know how old, maybe 5 or 6, in the backseat of the old Falcon XY, white one, on the vinyl seats. And we'd just been to church that night and we were driving home back out to Bukasia. and I'm in the back seat singing an old song, "Humble Yourself in the Sight of the Lord, and He'll lift you up," and just experiencing, no other word for it, probably at that age not really fully understanding, except that you're open, but experiencing overwhelming love, just crying in the back seat while I'm singing the song. That was probably my point of reference, and from there'd just be time after time after time where I had encounters, like, because Dad was in the church running youth group. I was way too young to be at youth group, but because your dad's the youth pastor, I still remember being at the beach. Being at the beach with like 12 or 14 other youth, and they're praying for the Holy Spirit and what have you, and getting smashed at the beach there. And as a young person,
not smashed in drinking,
no, it's way too young.
They're getting wasted.
Yeah, that's right.
Mackay's got a different youth group scene.
We're a lot more loose. We're a lot more.
That's
so all that sort of stuff right through.
Just that active involvement and
and never left. I suppose that was I still. And I understand that each person's on their own journey. I think sometimes in church we make excuses for people to go live wrong. And everyone makes their own choices. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I dislike that whole thought pattern of every teenager has to have.
We
time
can be
out.
a lost sheep. You can be a lost sheep for a while.
Man, I never left, and I love that I was never left. Not as in a high and mighty, but staying close has taken me through so much good, and it stopped me from experiencing a lot of stuff that my mates that stepped out for a season had to go through, because they went in and did certain stuff that they know was wrong, and it had consequences in their world.
There's a relay on all that.
Everyone's loved, everyone's forgiven.
Catches up.
However, there's consequences, to different stuff.
You start a meth addiction, and
meth addiction.
that would roll real quickly.
That's right.
It's like,
it costs a lot of money.
There's a few issues you're going to have, and there's lots of areas in your life that you can, if you start something, there be follow-on consequences, even if you feel like, 5 years later I break out of that. It doesn't just mean that.
Well, and there's that lie, you've got to experience it to be able to help people. And I think the greatest testament.
You're missing out. That's the other classic. You're missing out on living your 20s or your teens. It's like, what is that missing out?
Well, what pain are you experiencing in the middle of that and having to claw your way out of? Or, like wifey and I were virgins right up like to the wedding night. It was close. But we made it. But I
feel like that's pretty much every Christian. I mean, you'd be worried if you weren't wanting.
Well, that's right.
I've had that conversation with a few friends.
Right.
It's like you want each other. That's a good thing.
Well, that's what you created to do. God created sex.
I'm always worried when I hear young Christian couples be like, "Nah, I don't feel like I'm burning." I'm like, "Hold on, buddy.
Yeah, something's not right.
You should be like ready to go, and then it's
you see a stallion in corrals ready to race.
That's right. You're barracked in, and you're ready to be let out. We're off and away. I feel like that was definitely the case for Emily and I. Like it was the same thing. We didn't have sex before marriage, but we certainly struggled with it and went through waves. And it was good because we went on that journey together. And so we kept each other accountable.
Yeah.
We also had
because one would be weaker at certain times.
Yeah, definitely.
We moved our date forward by like nearly 6 months.
That's totally fair.
There is no way I'm making it.
I'm doing another. Well, we were quite young. Like we dated 2 years, 2 and a bit. She was 17, I was 18 when we started dating.
Yeah.
So the chances, like the big thing for both of us was you have to be able to provide. And it was just like provide basic.
Yeah.
Like the cheapest apartment we could afford.
Yeah.
We can put food on the table each week. And so we had to reach that point. And so it kind of all just came to a head. Once I finished uni, started a full-time job, we literally got married, and 2 weeks later, I started full-time work.
Yeah, wow.
So we didn't wait any longer than getting that full-time job. Yeah. Which I think was healthy.
Yeah.
I think there's balance in all. Did you guys date long? Was it?
We were high school
sweethearts?
Yeah, one of those sad stories. Met, I think it was maybe the beginning of year 11. She rocked up at our school.
Perfect.
And we didn't get along at all because I was apparently the jock and she was the square.
It took a bit of time.
Yeah, it took a bit of time.
It's a long game.
Well, we didn't want each other at all.
Yeah.
And then in year 12, we were both school captains. I don't know why I was school captain. I understand why she was, but we were dual school captains, which meant we had to spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
And then in, I think it was third term, we started to hang out a lot and whatever.
You made the most of those
Yeah, we're in the
situations.
debating team together, which she tried to get out of. She was she put in an official complaint to our teacher because herself and my best mate, who we were at school for the social advantage, not for the academic side of it. She was not happy. Yeah, she was not happy.
That's fair.
But he decided to take some time off school at that time. And so we were left in English and in modern history because it was the same teacher to work on our debating stuff.
Perfect.
And yeah, she just flirted a lot.
She seems
on me
that
like a
type.
rash. Yeah,
Puts herself out
terrible.
there a bit.
I couldn't get rid of her. And then we came to that point, we were both going in different directions at the end of year 12. So we were like, if this had happened earlier, we'd pursue a relationship, but it's not going to work. I'll be in Wollongong, you'll be in Brisbane.
Wollongong, wow.
Yeah. And I think though, once we declared, when everything's not spoken, it's easier to sort of hold back. And we'd flirt a bit here and there, but we were like, didn't know if the other person.
Friendly, but like, yeah.
Yeah, once it was like we'd had the chat and we were like, we actually like each other, but if it's not going to work now, that was like a red flag to a bull. So we were dating probably just towards the end of year 12, went to the school formal together. And then literally, I think, which was a good foundation, we were spending 8 to 9 hours a day together just talking.
Yeah.
And I mean just talking because we were just like, we're going to be away from each other for an extended period. And this is back in the days when there was no FaceTime, there was no whatever.
Messenger.
Mobile phones were only held by rich people.
Yeah, true.
And so Telstra had a monopoly on the landlines.
Did you at that time? Like when phones were coming up, you had to pay per text.
Paper text. I didn't even have a mobile phone when I finished in 95, so 96 in Wollongong. I would ring her once every 2 weeks for an hour and a bit, and that would be over $150 worth of phone calls.
Oh, I remember.
Because of long distance between Wollongong and
Brisbane. Yeah, you're paying for the fees.
And that was a landline. So that's a massive change in our world. But she moved after a year to Wollongong. She just couldn't be without me, I guess.
There you go.
But yeah, I equate that season of about 6 or 8 weeks where we were talking and establishing a relationship for that 8 or 9 hours a day. That held us for that year that we were apart, basically.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, relationships are built on friendships, the best one.
Well, I think so, yeah. I think it's one of the challenges these days. A lot of people jump into
love,
intimacy before they've actually built friendship and intimacy. And that gives you the trust to carry out the rest of it. Yeah. Whereas if you've started there, you don't even know if you like this person.
Yeah, which is why, I think sex before marriage is a huge topic, but why I think it's so important to delay. Yeah. Because you build the friendship, you build you're forced to.
Well, it's a trust thing too.
Yeah.
It's if you can't trust the other person because they can't control themselves in certain areas. Yeah. What else can't they control themselves?
That's right. And are they doing what they say and saying what they do?
Yeah.
And I have the best memories of those times when we were in that period where we ate a packet of cookies from Coles. Yeah. We watched a Walking Dead episode, about 15 episodes, should have gone to bed, but we've gone from 3 PM till midnight. Yeah. And hung out all like as much time as you possibly can squeeze in, and then you do it the next day if you can. Yes. And there's such beautiful periods of time building that. Relationship,
when you're still in those early days, where you just want to hang out with them all the time.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you're talking to the wrong guy on that. Right. I'll hang out with her as much as I can get. But I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, maybe lead us through to business goals, and because life changes a lot with kids and family and business. But how is this podcast is Jesus and everyday life? Yes. So talk us through the everyday life and what that looks like, and then how Jesus has been integral or integrated through all those facets of work and family and kids and things like that. Yeah, I think it's a weird one because I find it hard to separate the two in that regard, because as a young guy, I was like, I'm going to be a pastor. That's my whole goal. That's quite uncommon though. You wouldn't see many young guys. Like I remember my pastor at the time being like, "You're going to be a pastor, and I want you to start now." And I was the complete opposite. I was like, "Nope, God's given me a calling to." This is 18. I was like, "God's given me a calling to business, and there might be something pastoral in my future,
Yeah,
But
wow.
I had a clear, no, I will not be a pastor at 18, 19. I do not have enough life experience to speak into other people's lives. That was my...
Oh, yeah, no, I was on the opposite
You
scale.
straight
of that.
in.
I was like, let's do this. Let me be a
Prophesy.
youth pastor. I don't care.
Yeah.
1 Timothy, whatever it is,
Yeah.
your youth, don't despise that side
Don't
of it.
let anyone look down upon you because you were young.
Just get into
in
it.
spirit and in-
lead with fire.
Yeah.
It's like, that was my dream. And so I even went to Wollongong straight out of school because one of my mentors at the time was running a couple of churches in Wollongong.
Yeah, cool.
And he offered, come down and live with us for
So
a
that
bit.
was the Wollongong move.
That was the Wollongong move.
cool.
Yeah. So I didn't have any desire for uni. I had no desire for any sort of business
That
or
seems
work.
the complete opposite
I
of
just
where
wanted
you've
to help.
landed.
Yeah, that's right. I just wanted to help, and love that whole just seeing God move in hearts of people. So that was my got real world. So had to get a job, did a traineeship in retail and that sort of stuff, working 6 days a week, and moved.
True pastor's life.
Moved,
working
and
2
still
to 3
just involved,
jobs.
just serving wherever. So I was just heavily involved in the music
Monday
team,
night, Wednesday night, Friday night,
youth group,
Sunday night.
Sunday morning, Sunday night,
Yeah.
everything that I could be at and help at, and even got to a point where I was like one of the area guys for the Connect groups because we had a fair few of those across the city. And then after we got married, we were there for probably a year and then moved to the Gold Coast. And that
Good
was just
spot.
without that thing. Yeah, love the Gold Coast. It
Yeah.
was beautiful.
I want to move there one day.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Near water again.
I want to try it. Yeah, I just want to try it.
Yeah, just to
Well, I'm
try.
like, there's limited time.
That's right.
I'm tempted to move. Not soon, but the next few years, I'm like, oh, sorry, in a city, I might make the run down the coast.
It's just the water beckons. I think that's the thing.
Definitely.
In saying that, in our 20 odd months that we were on the Gold Coast, we lived at Mermaid Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Literally just the
the
Gold
front?
Coast Highway. We were just one back
you're on the
in
good
this whole
side?
thing. No, but
You're on the-
literally it's a walk.
You
It's
hit
like
the-
a
hit the
5 minute
lights.
walk.
You gotta run across the highway,
Exactly,
but-
that was it. And we went to the beach twice.
No.
But I was working 6-7 days a week.
I was going to say, what about every morning,
Well, we
late
had friends.
afternoons?
No, because we would always go out for dinner somewhere.
Oh, so you're
and-
having too much fun.
Yeah, it was weird. We were just in that different realm. I think the first time we went to the beach was nearly 9 months in, and friends of ours from Wollongong visited.
Oh, we'll
And
take
we
you
took
to the
them to a
beach.
movie world, and they're like, "Hey, we should go to the beach." And we're like, "Yeah, we should." And we went down the beach, and we were just like, "This is
I've never
amazing.
seen this.
Yeah, what are we doing?" But we just, I don't know, we were young. We were 20 then.
Hustle.
And just into it. Well, yeah, hustle. It's weird. Again, no drive for business.
Interesting.
Just enjoying. I was working for one of my best mates. We were kicking goals. It was
Yeah.
in the mobile phone industry.
Oh, cool.
So that was fun, and you just feel like you're having a ball.
Just keep rolling.
Yeah, and then in year 2000, moved back to Mackay to be full-time youth pastor.
Yeah, wow. At your old...
At the old original
Yeah,
church. So under
cool.
Dad and that.
Taking me back, Dad.
And then that was a year that there wasn't good finance in all of Mackay was going through a massive downturn. So it went to half wage.
Really?
We just had the first bub.
Wow.
So I had to get some extra work. And I think it was 2001 maybe. One of my mates who he's like 7 years older than me. He's one of my best mates now, but he was running a labour hire business. He had just moved back to Mackay from Kalgoorlie.
Yeah.
He had the whole Kalgoorlie outfit, the black jeans, black
Perfect.
singlet tucked in, and the mohawk.
Oh, yeah.
And I was hitting him up for a diesel
Internship?
apprenticeship type
Yeah.
thing. And he quite wisely said no. But
I don't think you're going to stick out there 3 years.
yeah, it was pretty full on. But needed someone to look after his people. So he
Yeah,
had about
cool.
6 guys working for him at the time. And
Is that payroll? What is that? What does that
wanted
look
me
like?
to do like sales and
Okay.
looking after the guys. So it was a mixture of recruiting and going after new clients because he said, "You're a people person." He was still on the tools at the time. And back then there was not really none of this work restriction, fatigue monitoring. It's like he'd work 3 weeks straight doing 14-hour days, and billing for every second that you're there, as well as travel time that you didn't do, sort of thing. It was like
he's maxing
it
out.
was max money.
Yeah.
Mind you, he's probably getting paid way less than, or he's getting paid less than half of what we pay a guy now to do less work. So it's
it's
it's an
changed a
interesting
lot.
season. But yeah, started with him doing that, and that's, I don't know how many years ago now, whatever that is, 23, 24 years, something like that.
Yeah, wow.
And then just under probably 11 and a bit years ago. We just felt like our season in that realm was done. Our boys were getting to an age, which I always talk about, like mums have a great impact in their younger years. And then as they hit the teenage years, whether it's boys or girls, it's like there's actually a need for more of the male input, the
Maturing.
fatherly side, and just reinforcing that identity. This is who you are, and being able to set certain stuff, which is interesting in our culture. Western culture is usually by that stage, which is most guys, they're hitting their mid-30s. They're actually hitting their straps in their career, mid-30s, late 30s.
Time to go full bore.
And the kids are also needing more.
Yeah.
And they choose work because of whatever they've got themselves into. Yeah, it is easier.
And rewarding.
Yeah, it's
Financial
rewarding.
dollar figure comes out of it.
Yeah, they've got
You don't get a
themselves into
dollar figure.
debt
Yeah.
because they've been chasing certain societal pictures of what it is to be successful. They've got themselves into a debt point where they can't not work or earn more money.
Got to have the Raptor though.
Yeah, you got to have the Raptor.
If I don't
and
have the
jet ski.
Raptor, I'm not.
Gotta get the jet ski and
I
the
know a few
motocross
boys with
bike
jet
and-
skis and bought and sold them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they used them twice in a
Yeah,
year.
I took it out for a week and that was it. And I was like, you could have hired it.
Yes.
Just taken it for a ride and
Yeah.
handed the keys back and you would have had less stress.
It'd be cheaper.
Yeah.
It's
Then they got to get a trailer.
yeah.
You got to hose them down.
That's why you had to get the Raptor to
Oh,
pull
yeah,
the
that's
two
right.
jet skis, because you don't get one, you got to have two.
Yeah. And then you get the boat
Yeah,
because lifestyle.
yeah, and you can't stay in the house you're in because it doesn't have the right view. Or
Well, you got to
the
park
biggest-
all the gear.
Well, yeah, you need a bigger house.
You got to have a
That's
bigger
true.
house.
Yeah, and it's got to be in a better position.
A couple acres on waterfront would be nice.
That's right. That's right. So I mean, there's a need,
There's
but
a
that
clear
drives.
trajectory for all of us.
That's right, and that's unfortunately that drives. Usually, you're hitting an ability to earn more cash at a time when your children need you more, and our society rewards choosing that over their children.
Well, financially, yeah.
Yeah, and we were just in a position where, I don't know, we were able to make a choice. We did not do successful. That was when I started the Your Best Business, which is like the coaching side.
You're like, I'll consult on the side. And
I finished with the labour hire because we just figured they're at that age. The shift had happened and it was going to be back on the road again. So I'd gone from being on the road 3 to 4 nights a week, every week, to now I was home more.
Yep.
And the way the market had shifted, it needed that face-to-face again.
Yeah,
And I just said to Jenny, I'm like, I'm not going to be away that much, not in this time frame.
Yeah.
So we made that choice. I went into the coaching side and we did, I think first year we did like 18 grand. Yeah.
That's
So I was
huge.
cracking it.
Tax-free.
Tax-free,
baby.
Yeah, I did not get a tax bill. Yeah, that's right.
What can I say? It was planned.
It was amazing.
Jesus ordained.
We ended up living with Jenny's parents.
Humble beginnings
and we didn't
in
even
the-
help them with rent. It was terrible. And then at the end of 2015, my mate that I'd worked for in the labour stuff was trying to get out. And I say this, somewhere in the middle of that, when I was working, after I had to finish with youth and started in the labour hire, I was continually going, this is a season. I'm going to be full-time pastor sometimes.
So
This
your
is a
vision,
season.
and you felt like,
I thought that was where it was.
did you feel like that was Holy Spirit led? Like, because with my business calling,
Yeah.
I had it very early that was like year 10. I sat down with a careers advisor and he was like, all right, what are you doing when you go like finish high school? And I was like, going to uni, business degree, probably gonna do accounting and then work out what my business is down the track. And he was like, thanks for the 5-minute meeting. Yeah. So did you have that kind of like?
No, I think in the era, because I'm old, remember that. In that,
I'm only 5 years older than your son, mate. That gives you a nice perspective.
Holy cow.
25 to 30, brother.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I could have had you at 16. In our era, especially in the church era, the pinnacle of church ministry, even though Dad had his own business in plumbing and what have you as well, at some stage he
So he was
put that
running
aside.
that while
At early days.
Okay.
And then when he took on full-time, obviously not doing.
he stepped. Yeah.
And he'd do a bit of consulting on the side here and there with businesses. But I think that the cultural expectation within church at that time was the pinnacle of ministry
Senior
is
pastor.
in pastoring.
Yeah.
Whereas the shift that sort of happened, which is a refreshing and very valid one, is to go people in the marketplace, whether they're just normal
Staff.
everyday worker, whatever. That's actually a calling as important as being a pastor.
sure.
Just
different roles
and then
and
different people get a
responsibilities.
calling to finance the kingdom, to do different stuff, which good mates of mine now that I've known for they've been over in the States for 20 odd years, and all of their campus passes, they got 11 campuses now. All of them
university
are dual
campuses.
No, churches.
Your churches.
Yeah, big church setting. But all of their campus pastors are dual. They pastor,
work.
but they have their own businesses.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty common.
And so they don't have to draw on stuff
Yes.
as much from the church, and they're sowing into, and it leads in that realm. So I think that shift, on what ministry was for me was massive. And so going through that churning, and every time we get a visiting minister or something, if they had a word, it was always like, you're in the right place. God's got you where he wants you. And I'm like, what? No, he doesn't.
Hold on a minute. I'm a year away from doing the next thing.
Yeah, and we just went, okay, at some stage, Jenny and I were talking about it, and we just went, well, we're just going to relax into this.
Yeah.
And go, okay, obviously we're in this for a season. It might only be 5 years.
Yeah.
And we'll just go into
It'll
it.
be over soon.
Yeah, this will be over soon, but we'll lock in and do
I'll
what
be
we
on
can.
my bigger calling.
That's right.
Yeah, my bigger calling is coming. I hear that a lot. Yeah.
And so when we sort of were finishing, we actually looked at a couple of places we're offering as churches, and clients that have been with us and known me for more than the 10 years I've had this would know. Even we went to Townsville and looked at taking on a church.
They're always
and just
looking
couldn't
for-
get a yes. Nothing seemed to line up, and it didn't make sense because we were like, okay. And then we were being invited down to Brisbane because we were living in Mackay, to people because they're like, oh, there's a church here that needs a pastor. There's a church in thing, and we just couldn't. There was no peace, and that's one thing that we've always found. It's like praying into that side of it. And so when the opportunity came, after not making good money, and I'm living with Jenny's parents,
There's some motivation there.
When the opportunity came to sell my boss's business for him, I was like, I know the person. I know who's going to do it. Rang the guy, and I'm like,
Oh, you weren't talking about yourself?
Nope.
Oh, I thought you were like, I know the guy.
No,
Listen, I'll find the money somehow.
We had no money. So it was like, and I just said,
15 credit cards later.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, we were not good with coin at all. Probably still not best with it, but we're better than we were.
It's all about those points.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to turn them over so you get free
If
stuff.
something's free,
It's terrible.
spend $1 million, you get 2,000 back.
That's right. It's a bargain.
Yeah.
It's like tax free. But yeah, we went into that, and I started to talk to my mate, and I'm going, he had great contacts within the industry. The guy doing my role since I'd finished, great guy, great family guy, but just didn't have the connections. And because it was a downturn, like I was saying, you needed to be on the road more. He only knew people at one site. So it's hard. They don't let you in. If they don't know you, they're not letting you in. My mate that I was talking to had connections everywhere and was looking for a change. The price point was a bargain.
It was,
It was great because my boss was just done. He was burnt out. Probably legacy from doing the bankruptcy stuff and going through that.
Yeah.
We thought we traveled through that well, which is a whole nother story. But I think because of our discipline to just keep exercising, he probably didn't crash as hard as other people would have.
Yeah.
But there was still definitely some PTSD that we were unaware of, and even in myself after I purchased a business, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But talking to my mate, he's like, this is an amazing deal. This sounds like a great deal. I said, yeah, it is. The price point's great. It's still making good money. You'll kill it because you have more contacts. You'll be able to just roll in. And he's like,
grow.
so how come you're not? And I was like, I had no thought about it. Spoke to Jenny, which my mate was like, I probably shouldn't have said that, but spoke to Jenny afterwards. She was hesitant because it had been pretty full on. Like he's my best mate.
You've had experience.
And our relationship had been way better since I finished work.
Yes.
But whilst I worked for him, for 90% of the time we worked for him, he was a very hard taskmaster.
Yeah, he's running a business.
Like
More so.
Well, we joke about it now. It's like the behavior would not be. You get in a lot of trouble these days.
Yeah,
to an extent. Yeah,
It's changed in the last decade.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when
Yeah,
I
it's a
went
different
through 10 years ago, it was still like chain to your desk,
Yeah.
60-hour week.
yeah, that was
clock in.
expected.
Yeah.
Like it was just normal.
For my 50 grand, I worked way hard. I worked way harder for my 50 grand than I do for 10x that. You know, it's like, it's just a different world based on where you're at.
And I think too, when you like, I was doing my apprenticeship under him for a fair bit of it. Is how I worded it at the start, which meant you were on lower.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any experience in the mining industry, etc. So it was a long journey to get to the point where even at one stage having to talk to him and going, man, I'm getting offers, we need to
Double.
review my stuff. And he's like, oh, everyone wants the jewel in the crown. Everyone's going to come after you for stuff, but you got to remember. I'm like, yeah, and I understand that. And if it was only an extra 10 grand, that's cool. But when people are offering me more than double, something has to shift here.
Yeah,
and he was good. We worked it through and what have you.
Yeah.
But that was part of me growing as well. Because
Well,
I
they
didn't back
say
myself
if you jump
before.
every 2 years, you end up like triple the earnings of someone else that doesn't jump every 2 years.
Yeah.
So the statistics are there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was that was interesting. And we went back to my old boss. I said to him, hey, what if I was to look at it? Remembering it, we had no money. I'm living with
vendor
Jenny's
finance.
parents.
Have you heard of that?
That's
Vendor
right.
finance. Let's go.
Well, and to his credit, he just went, you looked after me in my crap time because we didn't do the bolt. I stayed with him 7 years after he went through his stuff. He said, I'll look after you into this. We'll halve the sell price. We'll do a no risk agreement. So we're going to take over in December, June, obviously end of financial year. He said, you'll get a wage. If it doesn't earn what their sale price is before them, that'll just be the sale price. And if things go to crap, then you can just shut the doors at the end of June. We'll both have had a good 7 months.
Yeah.
And roll
So
from there.
6 month trial run.
Yeah, pretty well. And even that, sitting in with the solicitors and the accountants, and they're like, oh, yep, so we're doing da-da-da. And they said, so are you helping Dan with this? And Dan's like, no, he's the guy buying. And they're like, oh, we need to talk to you privately then.
Yes.
And he's like, no, I've already done the deal. And they're like, yeah, we need to talk to you about how you protect yourself here and here. And he goes, no, you're not listening. This is the deal. This is how we're doing it. Put it on paper.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And as soon as we got the feet under the desk, clients came back that had left because they'd known myself and they didn't really know the other person.
Yeah.
So by April, the business had earned what we needed to pay out.
Yeah, wow.
And from there, we've had ups and downs, don't get me wrong. Some years are better than others by a long shot.
Sounds like mining.
Sounds like mining. And I've grown a lot and I've made a lot of mistakes in leadership and different things and trying to be too nice and, lost frustrated good employees because I didn't give them clear expectations and hold them to it, which then created beasts that didn't like when it got busy.
Yes.
That's poor on my part. So I've had to learn a heap in that realm.
Yeah.
But in saying that too, to flow into what we've now relaxed into is I feel like part of our role, Jenny and I, is to build and extend the kingdom and to help where we can. So it's like charities that we love, like Compassion, close to our heart. We do a heap of stuff in that realm.
Yeah, cool.
Obviously church building, church stuff in that side of it. Then normal charities, I call them, just stuff that if it tugs on the heart, even that I've had to learn. We've got stuff that we have decided we're giving to, because I used to feel guilty if even someone rang, and just said, oh, this needs, I go, oh, I need to at least give into that too, because my heart is to give back into the one that's got a lot. Part of your responsibility is to give back, I feel.
Yeah.
But I was very unmeasured in that. It was just like almost out of a guilt thing. I'd be like, oh, I just got to give. Instead of actually,
someone else asked.
Instead of it being something close to our heart or the team, I like helping out what the team has a heart for.
Yeah.
And then that side of it. So we're 10 years this year, and we'll have, by the end of this June, we'll have given well in excess of the 1.1, 1.14.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to churches, not-for-profits, charities, and individuals. Like we've had people that have gone through hard times, and that's the cool part about that side of it, is being able to go, okay, well, I'm not just ministering through what I thought my dream would be on a Sunday and helping people live their lives. I'm still helping in that side of it, still very heavily involved in that. It's like it's not an either or, it's a yes and.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, well, actually, unless God smacked me up the side of the head and said, let's go, you're going to be a pastor.
I was going to ask that next.
It's easier to be
what's
a
the
business
next
person.
call back? Is it?
Yeah,
we're still going to have that vision to like fulfill that pastoral drive, or
Well, I think some stuff when you're younger, some things are more of a romanticized picture.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I am very aware. Like Mum and Dad were pastors for 40 years. My middle brother and his wife took over the church 4 years ago, but they've been working in there for like probably 15 or 17 years now.
Wow.
And I've got a lot of connections worldwide that are pastors, because I was in youth ministry for 10 plus years. Now they're all running churches and they're still
Growing
good mates
into
of
those
mine.
roles,
And I have no illusion that if you try to do it because you think it's a nice thing to do or a good idea, or you just felt a heartbeat for it at some stage, if you aren't called for that season, you will burn out.
Yeah.
Because there's a responsibility that rests on you, and there's a wisdom that has to come into it. The same way, if I tried to be an accountant, like, or I look at your business and go, oh, that's running successful, I should do that. If I don't have a passion and feel like I have a calling for that,
tell me about
it'll
it.
burn you out.
Yeah.
So it's just,
I think that's really important. Is that like the desires that the Spirit, Jesus, God, whichever facet you want to say, puts on your heart. It's like a mix of passion, calling, intuition from the Holy Spirit, which some people would say is your conscience, or like you got your good and your bad thoughts. I think it's just you've got to mix all that into a concoction that works for you. And so when people, because like people use my business as a good analogy, the barrier to entry is quite low. And same with maybe labor hire. Like you can start a HR labor. But the thing is if it's not a calling or it's not,
if you don't have a passion for it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel entrenched into what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Like there's seasons of those things.
Well, everything has a good season.
Yeah.
So anyone that starts into something in a good season.
You're talking about honeymoon periods?
Yeah, well, maybe it is. Yeah.
A lot of people
it's
have
like
that.
They have this notion, like in this current market, people are becoming real estate agents.
Yeah, we're not.
Because,
more rate cuts, baby. It's
But one of my good mates, you know him, Johnny, when he first moved to Brisbane, probably around about that, it must be, this will go wrong, he'll hear it. I'm going to guess, Johnny, I'll say 8 or 9 years ago, we'll say that. He went through a couple of years where they're on the bones of their backside fighting.
Yeah.
Fighting to build and putting in the legwork, just out on the road, 7-8 hours a day, just knocking on doors, going after anything.
It's building that foundation.
Yeah. And now you look at him, everyone goes, I want to be like him.
Of course.
Because he's cracking it. He's doing, X amount of sales a week. He's
with
just
X many hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
30 hours a week and they're all like, X turnover.
That's amazing. I could be making bank and I could just sell houses and smile. That'd be great. They don't know. Yeah. So they could. Maybe they start. And because of the demand, they walk into something and for 3 or 4 months, it's great.
You can have great periods.
But then you've got to work.
Yeah.
And people don't know. I think sometimes we, in our current culture, especially with these sort of settings like YouTube and that, everyone looks at the Beastmaster like we talked about before. And they go,
Beast,
Mr. Beast. Everyone's like, oh, I could do that. Maybe you could have 15 years ago. Now to break into that market, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
But they see an individual that's making bank. They don't recognize that he's one in probably a million plus people.
Yeah.
And he started way back here and has been doing, it's like.
Yeah. And he's an ultra recycle. Every dollar I make is recycled to grow. He's a classic capital growth player.
Yeah.
Where I make $5,000, I sow $5,000 into the next video.
Yeah. Wow.
And I make $10,000 and I sow 10. So that's how he's ended up with that growth. He's full, like in property investing, we would call him an absolute growth player. Like he's buying Sydney blue chip. Like he's like a, but he's not going for the cash flow route. He's not trying to he's always trying to one up, which I think, amazing. I think that, it's totally, he obviously feels called to do that. But I think you've got to push into your calling because people see the limelight or they see the multiple hundreds of thousands plus that you can earn as a business owner, and they go, why am I taking my 100K, my 75K, my 50K paycheck when I could be doing XYZ and earning more money? I think you've got to, my hardest years were all before I earned the big money. They were all probably doing the wrong things in terms of the work or I was working 2 to 3 jobs and people don't realize that. I was working 2 to 3 jobs. I was running a business, being a paid chartered accountant and renovating, which is essentially a full-time job in itself. So
and the emotional stress of that.
Thankfully, Emily and I were on the same page.
Which is good.
It was huge
I don't
vision.
know if I could build with my wife. We both become very, we'd have to think a lot before we respond, I think. If we're building houses together.
Oh, definitely. And I wouldn't do this again. I wouldn't do a raise and build and project. I'd just hand it over to a builder. Take my $800,000, buddy, and build. I don't want to. But it was about that shared vision.
Yeah,
and so it's like a collective vision.
And it's a journey.
Yeah, I don't know about fun, but some of it was fun. A
Yes.
lot of it was painful.
Yeah,
Like
wow.
we did a project in 2023 that was a flip, and I made 15 grand. And I think I worked out I earned about $2.50 an hour or something ridiculous, $5 an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
But I made YouTube content. The channel doubled, and
Yeah.
so we were
So it
like,
has a delayed.
it is a delayed
return.
payback,
Yeah.
and the knowledge. Okay, I
Yeah.
should have done a joint venture, or I
Yeah.
should have gone to the seller and signed an option agreement with the view to renovate and sell with her. No
Yeah.
stamp duty for me.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
interest rate. So there's like lots of different things I could have done. And so I think, yeah, God gives you, like, God lays out the foundation for people to build, but
Yeah.
some people try to skip to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, and interestingly, like what you said, everyone wants the cake. They don't want to know how to bake it or take the time what it took to sit in the oven or any of that sort of stuff. And I find it interesting, even in sharing when we've done stuff at different points, sharing the journey, because people look now, and the kids are growing. We got a nice house. We got a decent car.
Car's all right.
Car's all right.
Yeah, it's
I did hear, I think it was Pastor Chris on Sunday said something, or not him, someone said something on Sunday about, when you get to heaven, it won't matter what car and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe
see
you had
my
the
car
wrong
club
car.
buddies.
I was like, maybe you've got the wrong car. If you're getting to heaven and not actually going, well, I was blessed with that.
And me
you
and my
bought-
buddies are going to a car meet.
that's
First thing I
right.
do when I get to heaven.
Yeah, that's right.
Forget the prayer
There
and
was some
worship.
course- yeah.
Car meet with the boys.
Well, it's all for God.
Yeah, that's right.
But
new heaven and new earth, right? New cars.
But it is that game. It's like when I've shared, because from the outside, everyone, and it happens, doesn't matter whether it's business or church or whatever, everyone sees the current you. And if they
Yes.
haven't known you for more than
Tell
a
me
year,
about it.
they think that's been you the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you get time to share with people, it's like, and you're going, yeah, there were times where literally I went downstairs at the office and still working for my old boss the last year that I was there. And it's stressful. Get in the car, start the Ford Territory. Love the Territories. Start the Ford Territory and just sat there because I couldn't put it in drive.
Yeah.
And just crying, all of a sudden overwhelmed with fear that I'm going to have to go out west. What if I can't get the video? What if I can't find work for these people? What if I can't? And it's like sitting on you. I got a supply for my wife and kids. I got all and no one sees that.
No one wants
My boss
that.
didn't see it. None of the workers saw it.
Yeah.
That was me,
Yeah.
like by yourself. And then just numerous times over the years where you second guess yourself, and everyone that's doing anything from just dating a girl through to running a multi-billion-dollar business at some stage has imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And goes, if she ever finds out who I really am, she's going to dump me.
Yeah.
If these guys ever find out my real,
I'm just winging it.
I'm
We're all
yeah,
winging it.
where it's like, how did I get to this level? I'm
Yeah.
not this smart. I think as you sit in a certain level for a while, you start to go, okay, I can be comfortable here. Like I used to go to site, and I still remember the day it was like, it's pivotal for me. A guy pulling me aside and telling me where we weren't doing well as a business.
Yeah, okay.
And he's nice, and I think good-hearted person.
Yeah.
Because we'd had good chats and what have you. But he was like, you should be doing and this and this is this. And it was the first time that I've, there's that switch that goes on the inside of you where you start to go, hang on. And I said, just out of curiosity, what businesses have you run? And he's like, oh, well, I had a thing. And I'm like, how many people did you have working for you? And he had 2 guys work for him at some stage for a year and a bit, and he went broke. And I was like, so hang on, I'm running a business with 80 plus people across X amount of sites.
Yeah.
We're well established. We continually get stuff and feedback from our employees as to the level we look after them compared to others, because we don't want them to be a number. We want them to be part of our team and that sort of stuff, which costs more to do.
Yes.
Because you have to actually invest in people and do that side of it. And it was the first time I've actually went, well, I appreciate your feedback, but I was happy to point out this person hasn't succeeded in that. It's like going to the pub after you've had a fight with your missus and asking the guy that's not married, has been through 3 marriages.
Yeah, he's got 3 divorces.
Doesn't
under his
actually have a
belt.
girlfriend at the moment because he can't get one. And he's at the pub and you go, oh, I don't know. And you should tell her, blah, blah, blah.
your missus
It's
is
like,
wrong.
mate, you don't have any grounds to stand on. And that was, it was interesting. That's a switch point to go, okay, well, I'm going to listen to people that are actually doing better than me.
Alex Hormozy, I don't know if you follow his stuff.
yeah.
He talks hugely about people above you aren't going to talk down to what you're doing. It's people below you are going to talk down to what you're doing.
Which is then even a lesson for myself, because even which usually that comes from an insecurity of the person, which is cool to point out in other people. In being able to self-reflect on myself and going, oh, wow, that's why I don't push into that person that's above me, or that's why I try and play down. It's actually not because of their mistakes or their whatever. That's actually my insecurities and
Your
fears.
projections.
Yeah, what if I'm going to be found out that I'm not as good as them?
Yeah.
Or there'd be a reason they're not, they're not blah, blah, blah and that's been interesting to go, it's not just about the person below me that's having a chip at me. Do I have that same behavior to people above me? And I think out of defensiveness at times or insecurity, I've been that guy.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it. I hate later on seeing myself, you think back to that social scenario and you go, oh, you idiot, Ryan. You could have made a great connected with someone great, got great gold out of that, but you were so insecure, you talked up your own game.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there. Like I met with one of the owners of Workpack here in Australia, great guy. His name eludes me right now because it was a long time ago. It was when I first finished back in 2014. And I don't know why he met with me. I asked just to have a coffee here in Brisbane, flew down.
Mate, the amount of people that ask for a coffee,
Wayne,
I'm like straight up no.
Oh, dude. And that's what I mean. I sat there and spoke to
Do you
him.
just want to come for a coffee? I'm like, mate, no, I do not. I'll be frank. Unless you're paying for our services or you're in the... I'll be honest, I just don't have time to do that.
That's right.
And I'm small scale. I'm small fish.
Well,
yeah.
I was still younger than I am now. And I met with him for coffee. Wayne, I believe it is. And we were chatting and he's asking all these questions about where we were at, what we'd done. And I'd finished with the other group. And I'm like, we'd cracked over 150 and da-da-da. And I'm talking it up. And then I was like, I probably should ask him a question. And I'm like, so where are you guys sitting at the moment? And that stage in the downturn, Workpack in Queensland, not across in Queensland, had over 3,000 people on their books
they're big business.
running. And I was like, here I am talking to you as
about
though
how
I'm
great
helping
things
you.
are going.
Yeah, how we did stuff and whatever. And I was like, Ryan, you need to shut up. And I immediately shifted to be asking him questions about like, what was your biggest mistake? What would you go back in time? And he'd been through some hard stuff, and he was super open about what he would have done different. Like he got screwed over by one of his accounts people. He's had all these things happen, and his biggest regret was what it cost him and his family. Yeah, wow. If he could go back in time, that's what he would have focused on, and that was a huge lesson. But it's if you've got time to listen. I've sat with an old couple. They were married on a plane. They were married at that time for something like 40-something years. And I asked the question how long they'd been married. They told me, I think at that stage we'd been married maybe 15 years. Yeah. And I went, yeah. And I then proceeded to tell them the keys to a good marriage.
Oh, nice.
Because I'd been married for 15 years.
Pastoring this couple that's 40 years deep. I love it.
I literally got off the plane and it was like, I just got smacked in the face. Like God talks to me differently at times. And it was just like, that moment of realization.
At least you had the realization.
I sat with...
A lot of people would be blasé and be...
Yeah, I helped them. Yeah. And I'm thinking...
You're off to the next thing.
What have I got to offer someone that's 40 plus years into their marriage?
Such a good point.
I should have drawn gold from them. Yeah. It's just those sort of things you mature into. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in this realm, in this space, how do you not make money your idol? How does money not become the controlling factor of your decisions? How does it not become... the way you find your security? Because I can give, I can feed, I can drive nice cars, I can put the kids through school or help them with a wedding maybe. Yeah. How does that not become your idol when you get so far down the rabbit hole of, I think Jesus said that, what did he say? That the, eye of the needle, camel going through an eye of a needle.
Rich person to get, I think there's a few things, for me, I know there's stuff that resonates in my head. So one of my best mates, Jürgen, he always talks about how you got something is how you keep it. And that's relationally, that's business, that's...
So as in the posture, the way you went into...
Yeah. So it's like, I know that we have what we have because we've been tithers and givers since we were young. Yeah. Didn't matter what season we were in, we went out of our way to make sure we put the house first, put God's. And so as it's increased, it's not been something my heart breaks and gets frustrated with people that are like, oh, we can't give at the moment, but when we make $1 million, we're going to go
always
like, bro,
the
if you
when.
can't give $10 on 100
Yeah.
now, there's no way you're giving $100,000 on $1 million.
He cares about your heart.
Yeah. And so it's like that thought pattern, I'm very aware there's times that it'll try and get us, or more so in tough times, I feel like the fear tries to get you, as in like the ring. You need.
I need precious.
These are trying to take it.
The bank balance must be
I have to.
150K
Yeah, I need to be at this
because of the peace of mind.
And it's like,
because my peace of mind is tied to that dollar figure in
instead
an
of to
account.
God. And so I've just learned I give.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because you can't be held by something that you can give.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting point, right? Like you say, I give, but sometimes, like we use a 10% rule in churches a lot, right? Sometimes I feel the wealthier I earn, I was like, oh, sometimes this is where we've had this conversation once before, where it's like, oh, I could give 50% in one window, and then another window I might feel like it's 2%, but it's like, oh, why is it? It's like seasons of or days of bigger, because I'm like, oh, my say my lifestyle costs $100,000 a year, and I earn $800,000 or $500,000. I've got $400K capacity. Yeah, I could give $250. Yeah, and not really impact the lifestyle. Yeah, but in that season, I might be feeling like, oh, it's $50K. Yeah, it's not even 10%.
Yeah, I think that's where, like you talked about, you hit it on the head. Is the heart. God doesn't need our money. He doesn't need it. He will supply what he needs to supply,
Preach. Whether
I step into it or not.
He doesn't need our money. No. The amount of people that think he does is
that's right.
Hilarious.
As in, I'm making the difference.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Now, it's my money.
Yeah. So there's again, it's that thing of, it's like, it's not an either or at times. It's a yes and. Yeah. Because it's like we talk about, you shouldn't give to get. However, also you should give and expect to get. Yeah. Because it's a principle that God has built the whole world on. So even unchurched people grab that principle that God has placed that works. It's a rule in life. Yeah. You give, it comes back. So there's this game, and you should, if you're sowing into a field, you do that because you expect a harvest, not because you're just like, I'm just being a nice philanthropist, and I'm expecting something to come from that.
Out of that.
So there's the balance. If you're only giving to get, you've missed the point. So it's this weird continual reset, and even in the heart space of what's got me. Is there times where I'm actually feeling like I don't have the money has me? Yeah. I find if I get to a point where I'm struggling to be generous in certain areas that I used to be, I start to go, okay, why is that? Is that because there's a fear that's happening? And there's times for wisdom. See, this is where it gets, it's like, okay, well, wisdom, if you are going through a tough time in business, then wisdom would say, unless you feel like God speak to you and go, this is part of your breakthrough, then you do it. But other times I find that's what he wants, is to actually keep it. So you have to be close to him to know what you should be doing. So it's like you said, you have the I could give 250 and it wouldn't touch the sides. That's cool, but God's after your obedience in that scenario. And business is different to just normal earnings. Yes. Because it's not technically yours yet. It's business. And while you still have...
We've had this capital building question come through before. It's like, wait, what happens if I use that 250 and I was able to scale, and next year we could do better?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a balance. It's like, I think the responsibility of looking after your debtors and trying to clear that is huge. I don't subscribe to the whole, I'm going to give 50 grand on my credit card and that's going to get me the breakthrough to pay off my bills. And it's like, well, if you can
hit the jackpot on the lotto next week.
Yeah, my head's like, if you can believe God for that, then why don't you believe him to increase your income so you can be responsible for what you got yourself into debt for?
Got no debt.
So it's like there's a growth and a maturity that happens. So yeah, I think what's kept and keeps us in that realm is having to keep seeking God on it. Yeah. I know I'm not smart enough to be in the position we're in. I've learnt a lot. There's been times where I've thought I was smart enough, and that's cost me because I stopped listening to the heart of God, and so I might make rash commitments that cost me more and then learning and going, oh, hang on, I actually felt in my heart this much.
Yes.
But I was like, oh, I should give.
It's always got to be a push.
Yeah. And there's, I don't know, I'm still interested in that one because I got mates that are very big on the whole, if it's not hurting, then it's not
Yeah, you've heard
sacrifice.
a lot of that rhetoric in churches, right?
And I go, but it depends on what causes you pain.
Yeah.
Because money's never been like that. Used to frustrate my old boss. He'd be like, these are the bonus settings. And if you get to, I didn't care. I just wanted to be told I was doing a great job.
Yeah.
Money didn't motivate me at all. It's never been a great driver for me. So it's not going to hurt. Because if I felt
it's
like
not a
God
material
said,
difference
to me, it doesn't hurt.
value.
It's like if tomorrow goes like, hey, give it all away, my head goes, oh, well, I know I'll be fine.
We're doing something different.
Yep. And so, but that's not painful.
Yeah.
For me, it's other
I used
stuff.
to say hold loosely.
Yeah.
Hold loosely is like such a good concept
Yeah.
that it's a gift, whatever you've been, and skill set and passion and purpose. But that loose holding of it means you're not clinging to that as an idol.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we can be clinging to, I could be culpable of being in this position where I go, I can cling to a nicer place or a sense of security is a huge one for me. That's my motivator to get money. 2 reasons. 1, provide for my wife and kids.
Yeah.
2, feel like no one can tell me what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
Yeah.
Even though I should pretty much have that mentality that God is my control. I that was my biggest motivator is that I don't want you to be able to tell me what my calendar looks like.
Yes.
Where I have to sit at a desk, coming from an audit background, you put me in a desk for 50 hours a week and you tell me where that desk is. I don't want that. So those were like my big drivers.
Yeah.
But now being discerning with God that it's okay for you to have authority over you and it's okay. And obviously that changes as you go through, but you still have, there's always going to be a higher authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being comfortable with that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
As men.
Well, as men.
Not interested.
And out of our own, and I always say the word, out of our own insecurity or fears, and depending on what our experience has been with leadership in the past, being able to submit to something, we don't understand that well in our culture at the moment, but the best probably common thought pattern at the moment is just the same thing as the police. If I put on a police uniform, or I go out right now, what I'm dressed in, and I stand in the middle of the road and there's a B double coming down the road and I step out and go,
stop.
He's most likely going to swerve past me or squash me. Yeah. One of the two. If I put on a police uniform, nothing's changed in me.
Yes.
I'm not any stronger. I'm not any more special. I don't have any superpower.
You're the same man standing on the road.
But that truck will anchor up and stop in front of me. Not because of my power, but because of who I'm submitted to.
Yeah.
And so it's like that.
That's huge.
That's a big difference in being able to go, okay, I'm going to humble myself in this and go, even with the business, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And that can be working harder. That can be giving more. There's different seasons for different stuff.
Yeah.
I remember Dad, when he was full-time pastor, the TV broke and he was like, right, well, that must be just... we're going to get rid of it. We're done with TV because he didn't have a lot of coin. The church was suffering at the time. Yeah. So he's like, we just won't spend. We won't have a TV because it's probably a God thing that we're getting rid of the TV. And then within a week, people bought 2 brand new big screens for those days, like 67.
Yeah, the deep,
probably 67
screens.
Yeah, 67 centimeters.
I love the old deep like screens they had. Yeah.
And Dad was like, what's going on? This is my time to push in. And he literally felt in his prayer in the morning, God goes, yeah, but you're my son and I want you to have
He's a gift.
life.
Yeah.
And enjoy life. Yeah. And he said, and it was like it just messed with everything in his head because he was going, oh, this will be a godly thing. And
we're laying it
God
down.
wants to bless you.
Yeah.
So it's this, if your heart's right, it's amazing what God can do. We talk about it. If he can get it through you, he'll continue to get it to you.
Yeah.
The seed, God gives seed to the sower and bread for food. So he gives it what you can sow, but also everything you need for everything else in your life. And it brings, glory to God. And it's like, it's not a either or. It's not like, oh, if I give it, I'm the big martyr and I'm giving away everything. And
I think it's important for people, and this, I'm going to be speaking at church soon on the giving, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, have a chat at church. And the thing for me with that component is it's funny, even just this week, I made a commitment to sponsor someone $500.
Yeah.
And like the dollar figure doesn't matter, but literally a day or two later, I got a gift card for $500.
Yeah.
And I was like,
You're like, hang on.
and it was like, it was out of the blue. And I'm like, it doesn't, the quantum of the money is somewhat irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, whoa, like I had, and I think it's just really interesting that God like doesn't call us to, like some people will feel called to give millions and millions, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And some people will feel called to give $50, and God can bless you in return physically, or he can bless you internally based on what he does to your heart. And I think that's the biggest
There's a fair
takeaway for me with giving.
I love it that God, even salvation is sozo. It's not spiritual. It's spiritual, soul, body. It's here and now and later on. God's a so God. Like it's not a, so even in the tithing and giving offerings, the repercussions all through the Bible weren't just financial.
Yeah.
It's a covenant of protection. It's a covenant that flows into your children. It's a covenant.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the, like you said, you can give into one area, but that doesn't mean it's just going to. It might do and it's like, we just don't know. Add to that, where your treasure is, there your heart goes.
Yeah.
So there's so much involved. And I always get concerned when people aren't giving, and
I'll wait.
Yeah,
It's
or
like because your heart
they're
should
judging
be
something, and I go, yeah, it's easy to judge when you're not actually involved.
sowing. Yeah.
You know, it's if someone, I still remember having a discussion with a mate of mine because his sister had done some stuff and he was bagging her out, and I chimed in on the end of bagging her out, and he threw me against the wall by my throat.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, what the heck? And he goes, you don't talk about my sister, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, but you were just saying, he goes, yeah, but she's my sister. And this switch went on the inside of me that's carried me and everything. It's like people don't have the right to speak into something they're not actually committed to.
A part of, yeah.
That they're not actually there to make better. They're not actually there to, they're not
Maybe
doing the hard yards.
Maybe don't deal with violence.
No,
We'll just caveat that.
But it was just,
yeah.
it was an interesting thing. That's sort of like that whole thing of like people are easy. You know, we sit and watch State of Origin, and I bag out the inability of Queensland in the last game, which will probably date this podcast, but it was game one. Hopefully we win game two. But from where I sit, it's easy to bag out and say what they should be doing.
Yeah, of course.
Because
We're
I'm not in
sitting
the coaching
crowd.
team.
Yeah.
I'm not there on the training days. I'm not there watching the blood, sweat, and tears, the effort,
Some of the injuries they might be
emotional toll,
carrying,
everything that those players are going through.
Yeah.
So it's easy to, if I'm there, I'm not bagging them.
Yeah.
Because I know where they gave their heart.
Yeah.
I know what might need fixing. I might go to them and say, mate, you should have pushed in a bit better there. But I'm definitely not bagging them out to everyone else because I'm involved.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting part. Like people, it's like when they,
Put yourself
it's like
on
when
the field.
when you're not
Yeah.
giving, the Bible says that's where your heart is. I find that people that can't give for whatever reason, it's like, and usually it's because the money's got them, but they'll use all myriad of, oh, they don't use it well, or they don't this, or this happens, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's actually not that. It's because their heart's not engaged.
Yeah.
And they're fighting against engaging.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, anyway, that's my little soapbox.
Yeah. Go Queensland.
All comments addressed to Mike, to Luke.
Well, like I think a good way to kind of wrap up and round out this podcast is to talk through vision and calling. Because I feel whether you're young or old, there's always something coming. And for me, like losing Emily, like she's run her race, which is hard to come to terms with. That was her allotted years and a lot of days. But what do you see as a follower of Jesus, what your vision and calling might be into the future and how others might be able to have discernment or get an understanding because you've gone through, well, should I pastor? Should I business? Should I give? Should I not? Should we move to Wollongong to foster our relationship, or should we find home on the coast or Brisbane? Like there's always those seasons. But maybe just talk us through how you see vision and calling intertwining into your future and for others.
Such a big and good question. So
start simple.
If we're talking about how you envision the vision or calling outworking in your current, I find it's interesting to actually, I always find it interesting to see people that are totally oblivious to the season they're in, and they're still living. They're trying to live their life according to the vision or what they feel is their calling.
Yeah.
But not actually recognizing the
The here
season
and
they're in. So they're still trying to be like they'll be trying to do whatever, build their business, and they've got
season
kids.
of pushing when they should be in a season of
when
rest.
they should be and one of the things, I mean, you and I've talked about it. One of the things I've found is it's like what works for me now would not have worked for me 10 years ago.
What do you mean?
Yeah. So it's like
I know exactly that feeling of what I was doing 3 years ago is different to what I was doing 3 years before that.
Yeah. And so it's I think part of that calling and recognize it. I mean, and if we're talking in the church context, so many people are like, oh, I'm called to go to be a missionary in
take me away.
some far place. And it's like, oh, cool. And they like, so you guys, who wants to sponsor to send me? Now, I'm not saying if God's sending someone straight away, fantastic, great.
Yeah, it's a tough
But I go, okay, so
conversation.
how long has this been on your heart? 3 years. Okay, so how much of the language have you learned? None.
Yeah.
How much have you been putting aside in your own income because this is your calling?
Yes.
That you're going to, so a lot of people refuse to take responsibility for their own
practical
calling and start to
application.
put it in place. So I always say to people, if you've got something burning on your heart, then start to walk out what it would be in, like, to set you into it in 5
Plant
years.
those seeds.
So like currently our kids are growing up. We're pushing more into marriage stuff and helping in that realm. I'm pushing heavily into the men's side, and then also wanting to help out with businessmen and women in the marketplace to navigate this sort of stuff. When do we do? What
does
do we
godly
do? How
business
do we,
look
yeah,
like?
what does it look like? What's integrity compared to the world's version? All that sort of stuff.
legal versus moral debates in your own operations.
And so it's like the men stuff. I'm heavily financially invested into finding out and watching and being a part of Christian groups that do it well.
So good.
I'm heavily researching the father wounds and what that does, which all of us carry some degree. Even if we've had a perfect dad, there's something that
my
has
dad's pretty good.
Yeah, same as mine. But it's been interesting to find out, even through not his fault, there's been wounding because of my expectations or whatever.
And as a young man, there's always challenges. You're always challenging the authority above you. Well, most young boys will.
Yeah, well, that's right.
My 2-year-old, not even 2-year-old,
Yes,
my 19-month-old was doing that this morning, challenging my authority
You're
at
entering that season.
7:30 a.m., trying to get into the car. No, I'm not getting into the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's,
So it's that game of like, take the time to prep it. And then, like we talked about in this one, with the being able to submit to stuff, I'm a firm believer that we're in a church, and if that's your church, then your pastor is your spiritual covering.
Yeah.
Which yes, they don't have to know your business well, they don't have to know your whatever. However, there is a protection and a covering and a word that can only be, and I say this loosely but sort of firmly, it's like what they can speak into our world, we technically can't release on ourselves. And so it's like, and that's not to say, because I know people have real issues. They're like, oh, but they'll just tell me, and because they have their humanized blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's cool. But if you can't submit or at least go away and pray about it and come back to them and go, look, I've been praying, I'm still not getting an alignment with what you're saying. If you're just straight out rebutting, then you've got an issue with authority.
It's that instant no.
Yeah, it's like you've got an issue with authority. And I go, whereas that's a great sounding board, and you can't walk out your calling by yourself.
Yeah.
There's nowhere I've seen it's like God put the church there, even put the fruits of the Spirit. None of the fruits of the Spirit are necessary unless you're having to deal with other people.
Yes,
and so
it's all like in relationship.
Everything that God calls us to is actually entwined with the church, is entwined with other people.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I always go, if your calling is isolating you, I doubt it's your calling.
Yes.
You
if you're
need to
removing yourself from social or groups, and there can be seasons of quieter periods.
No one celebrates you, or no one sees the gift on you, or no one's. It's like, well, if I
plug in.
Yeah, if someone tells me I've got a tail, the first time I might go, oh, you're crazy. But if I'm walking down the street and people are snickering and pointing, and people come, man, you got a tail coming out the back of you. Eventually, I'm going to go into the bathroom and have a look and go, what is going on?
Have a look in the mirror,
Yeah, what's going on? a lot of people never go and look in the mirror. They want to live in delusion about their own calling and their own importance and their own whatever. And that might be a bit heavy for some people, but hey, suck it up. That's called adulthood. Learn to go and find out. Let people speak in. They might say stuff that you don't want to hear.
Yes.
But that will help you grow.
I've got family and friends recently. I don't want to go specific into the situation, but we spoke into someone's life, and it was like, if you're getting this feedback from not just one person, but two, but three, but four, the whole range of family in this scenario, maybe there is some discernment for you to have if it's coming from multiple points. It's kind of like you've probably heard this analogy plenty of times, that the man's waiting for help. Someone comes by, oh yeah, help's coming. Don't worry, I'm all good. And the next person comes by, help's coming. God will save me. And God's like, I sent 3 blokes. Like, what are you talking about? You're not accepting the help. So I think it's such a good point to say where vision and clarity and values align is in community. And that having a pastor and having a church community be part of that. It's why we need to fellowship with other Christians, because we are strengthened by that. And that doesn't always have to be in a specific church context. It can be great, but small groups, men's groups, worship festivals, like that's I feel like that's all part of the pieces to the body of Christ.
And if you have a message on your heart, then your heart's desire should be that that's heard by as many people as possible. The challenge I find is we don't want to be coached on how to deliver that message better. We just want to get out there and shout it at people's faces. And we don't understand that it's like I'm passionate about men's stuff. I have been learning
Stop yelling at men, grow up.
Well, language.
Grow up,
come on. No, but it's like, it's interesting because of our Western culture, because of the narrative in media about toxic masculinity and the presentation of any form of assertiveness, any form of whatever is perceived as bad, whereas there actually is terrific masculinity.
Good assertiveness. There's good strength.
That's right.
Good,
And because someone has been hurt by a male and men didn't step in to rectify that problem, we now reap the rewards of that, so to speak, because people now that have been hurt are overprotective of themselves. That doesn't mean that I need to negate and stop being a real man. However, I've got to start to use language that's less wall and brings a different picture in their head.
So it's like temperament changes.
When I talk about a strong man that's doing this and this in their church, I've had people go, oh, this is my husband, he doesn't da-da-da, and you're saying he's not. I'm like, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm not saying if they don't do that physical activity, they're not a man. I'm talking about their spiritual and their character and their integrity. You can be laying on a bed, unable to move, and be more of a man than a guy that's 6'5" and fit as a fiddle. And so I've had to go, okay, shift. And then this year we're talking about shepherds, as far as men and women being shepherds, but in that realm of the men's ministry. And it's like, there's no negatives. Yet a shepherd is a killer. Shepherd will go out.
Well, David's pretty bloodthirsty in the Bible.
He went out and chased down and ripped its mouth apart to get back a lamb. But in the same token, he's there when the ew's giving birth, holding the baby lamb, helping it suckle, carrying it on his shoulders, being out so he can be a beast in the marketplace. Be a king out here, but be soft and tender and encouraging over here. It doesn't have to be a beast in the household. And I think that's that challenge. So
and it's okay to be different types of men as well, because you've got David who isn't allowed to be part of the temple because God's like, you've killed a few too many people actually, buddy. So it's like, you don't have to be the same type of man that David is that then Solomon is. And it's like, okay, so there's different types of, but I think what you're coming to is that core value set of integrity, of honesty, of strength, of...
And he made some mistakes.
Oh, we all do. We all do. And like, talk about riches. Like these, I love it when people are like, you're hoarding money. I'm like, hold on. Have you had a little look at this Bible before? Because there's some guys with a few riches.
I love it. It's like most of the Bible is written by kings and wealthy business people. Most of what happened was actually accelerated by uber wealthy.
I love that
people.
Jesus' ministry is funded by house sales. I'm like, that's hilarious.
That's awesome.
I'm like, he's in the real estate game. He was a carpenter. Yeah, he might have been carpenter of building houses. He might have been building furniture, but he's building furniture and selling houses to fund the ministry. I love it. Like he's part of real life. Like he's not some figure that's...
it's not some whacked out weird thing. And it's not, again, I reckon people that struggle with the whole thing of finance and what have you is not because they don't have it and they feel like people that have it are mean. It's because the money has them.
It's a self.
Yeah, I know people that are more greedy and more self-centered that have no money to their name than some of my wealthiest friends.
Yeah.
That have done
and that becomes that heart posturing. And
exactly.
It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. It's a matter of where your heart is and a reflection of, comes back to that lady giving 2 coins. And it's like, okay, that like, if that's the analogy and that's an actual event that takes place and Jesus says like, look how much she's given, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He genuinely doesn't care about the financial capacity. And like there's practical, this is what I'll be saying. There is practical application. We want to put our money towards lights on at a church and events happening and men's groups gathering and funding, building, all those things are part of it practically, but heart-wise, God just wants the heart first and foremost.
Yeah. And it's, again, even that rhetoric, I find it a challenge when we talk about the practicalities in church. For me, it's interesting. And I understand that actually some people, they need to hear that. For me, I'm like, who cares? If people are giving to put the lights on, they've missed the point. Whereas some people, that's part of they feel like it's my responsibility. I need to give. I'm, like you said, my giving's for a different reason.
Yeah.
It's never been a motive like for
lights on.
I got to be, well, my headspace is, if I was giving for that, I'm giving for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
In my head.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think for some people it's the harvest, and for some people
that's right.
that
And everyone's
might be
slightly
their
different.
season of that being a harvest of their funds being put in. And ideally we're all putting funds in to grow the kingdom of God, and that should be the heart posture.
Yeah.
But you're right, there are always going to be, everyone's their own individual and their own
different
nuance.
experiences.
Yeah.
I might change my mind in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Like life might throw me a different curveball and it shifts how I see stuff. I know it's shifted. Like I love, I think it's Ezra 1, and it says the guy's not even a Christian. He's Nebuchadnezzar's son.
Yeah.
And it says God stirred the heart of the king.
Yes.
And from there, all this stuff happened for Israel and,
he saw
and money.
the glory
the
of
whole
God
nation
and was able to
sent.
fund the rebuild.
And I go, so it's a heart thing. If we're not willing to let our heart be stirred, we'll miss out. It's just simple.
I think it's really I know I was going to close out before, but on this topic of men, I think it's something you're so passionate about.
Yeah.
And young, old men, any season of men, what are you trying to build out of what you're sowing into, and what do you see young men? Because obviously the environment's changed from when you were growing up to when I've grown up to when now these, I don't know what they're called, the Gen Zs or whatever you want to call them.
The new gen.
The TikTokers.
Yeah.
Like they're going through a whole, like I know that I grew up with phones where it was pay to text and and then that grew into modern smartphones, and now that's just app after app after.
Yeah.
Dating is now largely online for 60% plus. It's like, whoa, that's like a whole, I've come
That's
from.
a new world. We used to joke about those things.
Yeah, that's right. Those weirdos.
Those weirdos online.
Now it's like the majority is interaction online. I know I play video games with my mates online. It's like we talk over a video, not a video call, but like audio chats more than we would chat in person a lot these days.
Yeah.
So talk me through your heart and vision for men in this 2025 on era.
Yeah, I think regardless of the social trends, I suppose.
Take me back to the 90s, is that what you're saying?
No, I think regardless of the social trends, the reality is if you can have a man's heart restored and walking with their Heavenly Father and actually being healed of stuff, then you fix the marriage.
Yeah.
If you fix the husband and the wife, then you fix the kids.
Yeah.
If you fix the kids, then you fix the community.
Becomes a whole.
So the issues we're seeing in our community with suicide, with loneliness, with anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
I hate the word anxiety. I only use it because it's fear, and the Bible says He's not giving you a spirit of fear.
Yeah.
So it's like anywhere that's there, technically that's not from God. So, but we cloak it, we call it anxiety because it's nicer. That's another whole soapbox. But that thing of like, and I'm journeying through that as well. So it's not like I got no fear.
I think we all have.
We all do to an extent. And there's healthy fear, and then there's stuff that stops you from loving well because
you're fearful of outcomes or situations. Yeah.
So I go, if we fix it, like we keep trying to put the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. How do we stop kids from committing suicide? Here's all the things they're worried about, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's great that we've got services that do that. However, if we were to fix the household.
Yeah.
Statistically, it's just been proven again.
Head
and
of the
again.
house impacts every other avenue.
If that's healthy, the
Yeah.
kids are healthier. If they're healthy, the community's healthier. And we've eroded the family nucleus over the last 20 odd years. in
and the
Australia.
women are dominant in the
Well,
Christianity
and
as
they've
well.
been hurt. Like there's been, if men don't step up, someone has to.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're doing it, but it's not what you're geared to do. And everyone has a strength.
Yes.
I can do stuff that I'm not, and I'll get the job done, but it won't be as effective.
I tell people I'm nowhere near as good as mum as Em
well, that's right,
was.
and you shouldn't be. But you shouldn't be. And but there's a grace that can rest in scenarios and that side of it.
We
However,
can
if there was
fulfill
a
each other's
choice,
roles.
if there was a choice to, I'm going to extra and make out like women are useless and I'm the best and I'm the key for everything, then I've missed the point.
Yeah.
Because you're both supposed to be involved. So that's my heart at the moment, is to establish areas where men can be made whole, where father wounds are healed, and they actually are able to leave full of love, but loving without fear.
Yeah.
Because that's the challenge. Even in current time, dealing with a couple that are going through some stuff, and it actually comes back to his fear of being like his dad.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do, so he is removing himself because he feels like he's going to be his dad.
In those situations.
Well, overall.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost him his marriage and his relationship with his kids.
Yeah, but the withdrawal has its own massive impact.
Yeah, but it's out of his own fear.
Yeah.
It's and unresolved hurt. So it's like he's protecting himself. He thinks he's protecting them.
Yes.
He's actually destroying himself and them.
Yes.
Because he's got fear and undealt with trauma.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, let God into that area. Let's start to work on that. Let's give you godly ways of dealing with the stress. But that takes time. But that's the heart. It's like because I see that, I'm like, man, if once you let God fix this and start to put in place different ways of doing it, your marriage gets better. Your kids get better. It's like it's a no. Well, from my point, it's a no-brainer. I think, and we haven't focused on it enough in the last 25 years in the church. Yeah, we've been great with kids ministry, youth ministry, women's ministry, exploding. And they're all fantastic. And we need them. We need to add in though the men's stuff, because statistically, it's like if you get the wife saved in a household, it's something like 17% chance of getting the household saved. You get the kid saved, it's a 3% chance of getting the household saved. You get the man, it's up in the 90%.
Yeah.
That the household will
the
follow.
Whole household will
and
be
yet
part.
Somehow the devil has made us focus on the percentage wise in a business.
Yeah.
The return on investment, whilst it's still good, it's not as great as if we focused on
We
this.
just lack the numbers of men committing to Christian faith. We really do.
Well, I think there's been a lack of call.
Yeah, purpose.
What we've been too nice.
Yeah.
And because of, flow on of the 80s and 90s and different stuff that happened there, we've got a heap of women that were mistreated in the 70s and 80s.
Who are very independent.
They've had to protect. And so they're protecting the next generation, but they've been so hurt and it's not been resolved that they're pushing down men. Yeah. And men, we've watched Simpsons for 30 plus years. Homer's a great guy. He loves his family, but he is a terrible leader. Yeah. He's not going anywhere. He has no desires for anything. He's not got any vision for his family. So you can't have a wife that's helping someone that's going nowhere. Yeah. And we've actually reflected that in our Western culture now, where we think men are supposed to just sit there watching TV, having a beer
and football.
Yeah. That's not the case. We're supposed to actually be encouraging, equipping, building up our wives to greatness, being the great instiller of identity and purpose in our children. But it's hard to do that if you don't have it.
Yeah, and you can't empower others unless you're in a position of confidence and strength. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, we fix that again.
Yeah, and I think the big change between like this masculinity movement is like the Andrew Tate or like there's
it shows there's a hunger.
There's a hunger. There is. There really is a hunger.
Just to be told you have a purpose.
Yes.
Now, a lot of what he says is a little bit...
Yeah, and there's
because it's still out of hurt.
Yeah, and there's a few podcasts out there, whatever, and there's a few other. There's a podcast called Whatever. Yeah, that's huge. That questions men's role and where they like how women are acting in these social situations. And like I think what it's doing right is discipline. Discipline has come back into the form, and consistency. So if you can, Alex Hormozy,
Yeah.
let's do 1 million videos, and we are now the biggest acquisition docker. I wear the hat all the time. I wear the nose thing, all that stuff. It becomes consistency and discipline. I think is being nailed. What the modern pushback of men is missing is the hard aspect and the transformation by Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I guess to close out, that's what we'd encourage you guys. If you've gotten this far through today, amazing. We'd love that you're still with us. And I would just pray that over you and over ourselves, that our covering and confidence would come from Christ first. And then we would also find the discipline and consistency in that family nucleus, in your social nucleus, in your workplace. That's where I think it all comes back to that. And I hope the next decade we see men step up further. There's always been men's groups around, and there's always been a heart for, but I think statistically as businessmen and people who are sowing into a local church and part of Brisbane as a great community, we'd love to see those percentages be 50-50 or step up of men in volumes in the church.
And it's coming. Talking to guys all around the world, there is a resurgence in men coming to church.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I always talk about when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Lord will raise a standard against it. And it's like the attack that's been on manhood, on masculinity, on healthy husbandry and wife. That's been a massive attack over the last 15 or so years.
Yeah.
It's like, well, God's going to lift up the standard again.
Yeah.
And that's great because men are feeling the tug on their heart to actually engage. They may not know how to do it yet, but we're starting to put in place things like the men's groups or prayer and that sort of thing, and finding that the young guys are eager for it, old guys are eager for it, because they're feeling the pull towards this is my role, this is important. When I pray, it makes a difference. When I deal with my stuff, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting side of it, because I see it everywhere. Even that Red Frogs lady that came over from the UK a couple of weeks ago, she talked about the statistics in the UK. The increase has been crazy in that 14 to 25-year-old males.
Yeah.
It's good times.
Step up.
The future is
step
bright.
in. Yeah.
Like it is bright. It's going to get better. It might get a bit darker before it gets better, but there's good stuff happening.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the Unbound podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to find Ryan, where do people find you if they're interested in stuff that you're doing?
Just go to, I suppose, I need to change my handle, I suppose, on Instagram, but it's Ryan the Legend.
Let's go.
That'll be
Everyone
easy to
follow
remember.
Ryan the Legend.
That'll do.
That's
the trick.
very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome chatting with you, mate, and I love your heart and where you're heading.
I appreciate it.
It's an honor to, I don't know, hear about your story, and I love seeing Christian men who have a heart for God first, and that outpours into what you do in your work and outpours into what you do in the church. So just want to encourage you in that. And
I appreciate it. Right back at you.
Thanks, brother. So yeah, subscribe, like, and I'll see you in another episode sometime soon.